Instead of saying me too, I thought of an alternative to me too, because you could say, that's my favorite kind of Saturday. And I'd say, yeah, me too. It's my favorite kind of Saturday too. But you can also say the equivalent of ya somos dos,
Yeah.
which in English we would say that makes two of us. Like to say that we are on the same page. And I agree with you. That makes two of us.
Yeah, maybe we could also say a bit more, maybe not necessarily slang, but not as grammatically perfect, but very natural. Same for me. Yeah, same for me. Same for me. So, hello, and welcome everybody. We're here for another episode of the Inglés Británico Podcast. I'm English Con Chris. This is my amazing co-host, Inglés Con Lewis. And today we're going to talk about la mejor rutina para aprender inglés, the best routine to help you improve your English. But before we begin, Lewis, how are you, mate? How was your weekend?
It wasn't bad, to be honest, and thank you for the introduction. And it's true that it is a little bit of a tongue twister sometimes.
Yeah.
When you're beginning a podcast, I'm like, ugh, ugh. It's hard to get the words out. And I was thinking, tongue twister. What does it mean? Well, in Spanish, a tongue twister is un trabalenguas, where you feel like you can't get the words out or you can't pronounce everything perfectly. And it happens to me quite a lot. And another that'll happen to me is I can't quite remember certain words, and then I'll have to say, tengo la palabra en la punta de la lengua, which in English we have exactly the same expression. I have the word on the tip of my tongue. But hey, there we have two expressions, and my weekend was good. It was relaxing. I didn't do anything, to be honest, so I feel like I've rested and
Nice.
I'm ready to take on another week. How about your weekend?
Really good, thanks. Yeah, I think those weekends are very necessary. Some weekends you need to relax and recharge your batteries. I had the opposite weekend, but yeah, but also very necessary, I think, to go out and socialize, to hang out with friends. So on Friday, I had a board game night. I don't know, have you played Catan?
I haven't, but I want to because I've played Risk and I like Risk, and I think Catan is kind of similar, maybe.
Yeah, a bit quicker, which is maybe a positive because I love Risk, but sometimes you could end up playing for like 5, 6 hours. Yeah, Catan, they're shorter games, but very similar with the strategy. So yeah, that was again relaxed, but great to hang out with friends and play board games, juegos de mesa in English. We don't say table games, we say board games. And then on Saturday, yeah, I went out drinking, but day drinking, which is my favorite type of drinking, day drinking. I was home by 9, 10 o'clock, slept well. So then Sunday, didn't even have a hangover. Well, a little bit, but not much. So yeah, Sunday I relaxed. Now, yeah, Monday I'm raring to go with lots of energy to start the weekend. So yeah, it's a good weekend. All in all, a very good weekend.
Um, that sounds perfect. And to be honest, that kind of Saturday is the Saturday that I like as well. If it's sunny outside, the weather's good, you can go day drinking. So then you get a little bit drunk, a little bit tipsy, which is
Yeah.
slightly drunk, like tener el puntillo or
Yeah.
contento, to be a bit tipsy. And then you don't get a hangover. So it's perfect. And just one more thing that I wanted to mention. When you were saying this, instead of saying me too, I thought of an alternative to me too, because you could say, that's my favorite kind of Saturday. And I'd say, yeah, me too. It's my favorite kind of Saturday too. But you can also say the equivalent of ya somos dos, which
Yeah.
in English we would say that makes two of us. Like to say that we are on the same page. And I agree with you. That makes two of us.
Yeah, maybe we could also say a bit more, maybe not necessarily slang, but not as grammatically perfect, but very natural. Same for me. Yeah, same for me. Same for me. I think any listeners, I would recommend that makes two of us or me too. I think those are better to use. But if anyone hears, yeah, same for me. It's exactly the same. Lo mismo para mí. Oh, yeah.
And we can also say likewise. Likewise.
Yeah, yeah.
Me too. Now, I reckon today we should get to the point. Ir al grano. Cut to the chase. So you mentioned the topic, Chris, is, what was it? La mejor rutina para aprender inglés?
That's the one. Yeah, I think obviously we were very lucky. I mean, maybe I'm prematurely speaking for you, but I was very lucky living in Spain, living in Mexico. We've spoken about this before. I don't want to go into too much detail, but yeah, we had the opportunity to live in the country and use the language. So, for any of our listeners that don't necessarily have this opportunity, I think having a routine with English input and English learning is very, very important. Is this something you normally kind of teach your students? Is it something you mention?
No, 100%. I think it's all about using the language and being exposed to the language. And my usual kind of slogan or motto is that you need to immerse yourself in the language. And what we mean by this is just using it,
Yeah.
reading, listening, watching things, trying to think in English as well. And the best routine to learn English or any other language for that matter essentially is just using the language. Then it's up to you how you do it. But you need to make sure that every day is, let's say, an English day.
Yeah. So we've kind of come up, like me and Lewis have worked together to kind of come up with an example routine. As Lewis mentioned, not everybody might want to follow this, but maybe just use it as inspiration and then adjust it or modify it to your interests and your needs.
No, absolutely. 100% agree that we're all different and there is not a one size fits all solution.
Yeah.
All you have to do is think about how our example and template, which we're about to show you, could be adapted to your own personal needs and routine. So let's get started. Let's kick off. And
Yeah, let's crack on.
let's crack on. Let's kick off. Let's get the ball rolling. And
Yeah.
Chris, do you want to go over your idea for the ideal morning routine?
Thank you very much. Yes, well, I don't know about everyone listening and about yourself, Lewis, but even I don't like speaking first thing in the morning, even in English.
Nope. Nope.
Yeah, yeah. When I wake up, I don't want to talk to anyone. I want to drink my coffee. So it's not an ideal scenario for me personally. Again, everybody's different, but I wouldn't want to practice or I wouldn't recommend practicing speaking first thing in the morning. This is a prime opportunity just to listen to English, maybe repeat some words to practice your pronunciation or, excuse me, or repeat phrases to help your memory. But it's not creative thought speaking. You're just repeating what you've heard to help your memory and your pronunciation. So, yeah, you could listen to a podcast, even music, or even short videos, maybe Inglés Británico podcast every morning. Have a
For
quick
example.
listen, who knows? But as me and Lewis both mentioned, choose a topic you actually enjoy. If you like football, listen to a football podcast in English. If you like news and current affairs, listen to journalists doing a podcast. So adjust it and modify it to your interests. And then, as I mentioned, you can repeat phrases, repeat words to help your pronunciation and help your memory. But the main point is you start the day listening and processing information in English. So, Lewis, I don't know if you have anything else to add about the mornings.
Yeah, absolutely. I think morning, afternoon, evening, night, at the end of the day, you choose what works for you and you can change the order in whatever way. But I think you're right in saying that I personally don't want to speak a lot in the morning.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I don't have classes first thing in the morning every day, but sometimes I do. And when I go back home and stay at my mom and dad's house, which I do once every few months for like a week, and then bearing in mind that it's an hour earlier, so I'll have classes at 7 o'clock in the morning. My mum is a morning person, and she'll always wake up at the same time as me, or even earlier at like
Wow.
6. And whilst I'm making my coffee, she's trying to make conversation. And I'm like, Mum, like, do I have to tell you? Please? Don't say anything. Go back to bed. Right now, I'm trying to build up the energy able to prepare myself to teach a class. And of course, teaching a class, I'm very, very sociable, but I need this like hibernation before
Yeah.
teaching to be able to mentally prepare myself. So I guess it's the same for most people. But speaking isn't the easiest thing first thing in the morning, but listening, on the other hand, is much easier. It's much more passive. And this is what I usually do with Spanish, even just to maintain my Spanish. I listen to a podcast called Tengo un Plan, which is
Oh,
all
cool.
about entrepreneurship, about finance, about healthy
Oh,
habits, about
less cool.
diet,
Yeah.
all of this stuff. And I'll just have it on in the background whilst I'm maybe going for a walk, cleaning the house, preparing some classes. And this is something that you should do as well with Inglés Británico Podcast.
Yeah, perfect. Also, so why don't you take us on to midday, Lewis? What would be a good routine for the next part of the day?
Okay, let's do it then. So midday around noon as well is another synonym. I reckon by this time in the day, you're feeling a little bit more alive. We're recording this at midday practically, and I still might look like I'm tired, but surprisingly, I feel quite awake, and the sun is coming out as well. So I feel like this is the moment for people to actually do more real studying, let's say. And real studying is taking notes, you know, reviewing what you've learnt from listening or watching series or from a previous class. So it depends what kind of person you are. In my case, I don't really use notebooks anymore. I haven't for the last 5 years.
Right.
On my phone, on my laptop, I've got the Notes app, I have spreadsheets, and this would be your moment, in my opinion, to see if you can come up with some example sentences of expressions, of advanced vocabulary. So you're actually making more of a conscious effort to study. And of course, it depends how much time you've got, but we do need to review words because if you're anything like me, I will listen to words once and it'll go in one ear and out the other. So at some point in the day, just check your notes, write out some examples, see if you can come up with your own example sentences and say them out loud as well. So then you're killing two birds with one stone and working on your pronunciation and your fluency at the same time. But this is one thing. Essentially, try to review what you know, use it in conversation or in writing. More active learning. Chris, what do you reckon?
Yeah, I completely agree with you. Obviously, I don't want to repeat myself. I don't want to sound like a broken record and keep repeating myself. But, maybe other people are still a bit tired midday. Maybe they still want passive inputs. But I very much like you. If I've been awake for 3 hours, or if I've been awake for three coffees, which is the same as 3 hours, then by midday, I feel a lot more alert. I feel like my memory is more able to retain this information. So yeah, for me personally, I think midday is great for what you said. Especially, I liked your example of making your own sentences as well, because I think it's really important not just to read your notes, but to try and make sentences, use them in an English sentence to really help you understand the meaning, the context, the usage, the grammar, and it helps with the memory. So I think, yeah, brilliant.
And we could do this as simply as just looking at the example here, which is take into account to consider something. You could just say, okay, take into account that later it will be more difficult to have the energy to write things down. So,
Yeah.
top of my head, I've just made up a sentence, and you could do the same thing. And one more thing before we move on to later in the day, Chris used a lovely English expression, which was sound like a broken record. Did you know that this is translated practically in the same way in Spanish?
I didn't know that. So let me try and guess it then. It would be me sueno como un vinilo, no, un vinilo roto, yeah, or
Almost,
un
almost.
disco roto.
Un disco rayado. So, like,
Rayada, also scratched disc. Oh, okay. Because, yeah, it would make the same sound if it's a wick, wick, wick,
mhm.
yeah.
So yeah, in that case, to sound like a broken record, someone who's always saying the same things is, I think, sonar or parecer como un disco rayado. So
Oh, okay.
imagine that Chris has just learned this new expression. Then he would write it down in his notes, and then later he would make up his own sentence using this phrase so that then it stays in his head.
Perfect. And then an even more advanced level would be to try and use it with friends or with somebody in a real conversation. That would be the next level up.
Exactly. Oh, beautiful. All right, let's keep going then. So, the next section, Chris, over to you.
Perfect. So I think now we get to the speaking practice. I think for me personally, the afternoon, I've had my coffees, I've done most of my work, I've eaten. Maybe if you're Spanish, you might have had a nap as well. So I don't mean that in an offensive way, just a funny stereotype, because I know how hard Spanish people work. It's true. When you live in Spain, you realize how hard they work here. But anyway, sorry, getting distracted. Yeah, I think this is the perfect time of the day to practice your speaking. Maybe with a colleague from work. Finish work, go to a cafe, have a beer, try and speak for 30 minutes in English before going home or before running your errands. Obviously, if you don't have this opportunity, talk to yourself, record your voice. I'm sure it's the same for you, Lewis. We have lots of classes in the mornings, but the afternoons is where I have most of my classes when people finish work, 5 p.m., 6 p.m., 7 p.m. This is when the main kind of demand for classes for me is the afternoons. So I don't know if that's the same for you. It's normally students in the afternoons wanting classes. Maybe that's because of work scheduling, not because of this reason. But what do you think?
Yeah, I'd say, at least speaking about my own schedule, my own agenda, my own timetable, I probably teach, well, at least Monday to Wednesday, I teach flat out, like nonstop in the afternoon. And my mornings, I might have a class here and there, but it's never like fixed hours. And of course, I think this is because of people's jobs and their routines. But in the afternoon, I think it's a good moment, a good time to practice your speaking, whether you can afford to join speaking classes, or you have a private tutor, or you go to an academy. Whatever works for you. You might also speak to some friends or have a language exchange partner.
Yeah.
You choose. There are many options. It's up to you to find out what works best for you.
Yeah.
You can't find any of this genuinely. You can speak to yourself or speak to ChatGPT or Gemini.
Yeah.
And it's still practice. It might not be as meaningful, but it's still good practice.
Yeah, and obviously we're talking about la mejor rutina para aprender inglés. So the best routine to learn English is the best routine to fit around your work schedule as well, because let's be honest, unfortunately, work takes priority. Without work, we can't afford food or English classes. So yeah, we need the work first. So yeah, la mejor rutina para aprender inglés has to be a good routine for your job as well. And for most people, the afternoon is normally when they have free time. So this is when we can really practice our spoken English. So why don't we move on to the evening, Lewis?
Absolutely. And I'll just, before I start discussing the evening, I mentioned the expression kill two birds with one stone earlier, which is matar dos pájaros de un tiro. And because everybody has busy schedules, at least speak for myself and people I
Yeah,
know, the way to fit English into your routine is by, doing it when you would also be doing something else productive,
yeah,
like maybe driving home, or you're on the train, or you're going for a walk, or you're having lunch, and try to combine English habits with the usual day to day things that you can't possibly avoid. That way, you are just making the most of your time.
yeah. Perfect.
Cool. So, anyway, the evening. This is where it gets good, or at least this
Yeah,
is where most people are already exhausted. They're shattered. They're knackered. They haven't got much energy to speak, or at least they don't want to speak so much. So it's just time to sit back, relax, and enjoy some relaxing input. What do I mean by this? Well, sitting down on the sofa and watching a series or YouTube videos. Personally, I'd always say with subtitles, unless you're going to challenge yourself to see if you can really understand everything. But I think just with English subtitles, not Spanish subtitles, it's perfect. So that way it's easier whenever you're not quite sure what they've said, you can double check. Or if they use new expressions, you can also write them down in your notes. And don't worry about every single word, because this is an error that I used to make where I'd watch different programs in Spanish and I'd be like, oh, new word, oh, new word, oh, new word. And over time, I realized that this was a bit counterproductive,
yeah.
really.
It's not relaxed input. That's
It's
definitely
not
not
relaxed at
relaxed.
all. It's stressful input.
Yeah,
So I'd say with this, if your English is already a very advanced level, then you're not gonna need to look up every word because you're gonna understand through context and only look up the words that are maybe repeated that you don't know, or they sound like nice expressions that you thought, ooh, that sounds nice. I wonder what that means. And then you can look it up in your own time whenever suits you best. But this is the best part about learning languages, and for many people, it's one of the reasons why they will want to improve their English. It's because they want to enjoy films, documentaries, series without having to change it to the dubbed version in Spanish or feel a bit frustrated when you don't quite understand everything. So, I mean, it sounds like my evening every evening when I finish classes. I just sit down on the sofa watching something, and all we ask is that you do the same thing in English.
yeah.
Job's done.
I think a lot of my students, for example, they always say, yeah, but Chris, this isn't relaxed because I'm trying to understand English. And I think that's the key point here, that if you don't focus on understanding every single word, but you just focus on understanding the context and the meaning, then it can be relaxed. If you focus on understanding every single word, then it is going to be quite stressful for you. Yeah. Another recommendation that I give to my students is maybe choose two series. One series where you'll watch one episode in English, and then a different series which you can watch in your own language for an even more relaxed evening. But just maybe that one series you follow one episode every day in English for this relaxed input is so important.
And just following on from that, a lot of people will ask me, oh, what kind of series should I watch? And ultimately, it's up to you. Whatever interests you is what you should watch. But if maybe it's still a bit stressful for you to watch a series 100% in English, in that scenario, I would watch the typical kind of sitcoms where episodes are 20 minutes, 25 minutes. It's all focused on speaking, speaking, speaking. You don't have this random action in the background, and it's everyday vocabulary at the same time. So,
Yeah.
what am I thinking of? Well, I'm thinking of The Office, Friends, Big Bang Theory, perhaps not. It's a bit more scientific, but Why not? We can include it
Yeah.
as well. How I Met Your Mother, anything that's relatively short and is essentially a sitcom. So you've got conversation after conversation.
I think you've highlighted the key point with sitcoms is the conversation. I mentioned this to my students that thrillers and dramas, the dialogue is important. So they use vocabulary that's not necessarily very natural for conversational English. But the reason they use it is because they need that dialogue to really grab our attention. It's what I like to call storytelling English. Like a book would be the same. A novel would say, "Oh, Lewis was feeling very melancholy." But in a normal conversation, you say, "Yeah, I feel a bit shit," or I feel a bit sad, or I feel a bit down. We wouldn't say melancholy in a normal conversation, but in thrillers, in dramas, they tend to focus more on advanced English, not because it's natural, but because it gets the viewer's attention. The dialogue is important, whereas in sitcoms, it's more about the conversations between the characters, the everyday socializing. It's hanging out. That's all it is friends hanging out in a coffee shop or a bar, having normal conversations. So I think it's ideal for students. Yeah.
No, I 100% agree. Now, I guess that's it. Or do we have the night? No, that's it.
No,
Evening,
no, that was it.
night.
Yeah, I thought at night dreaming in English was a bit of a. I don't think I can possibly force my students to do that. I can't even ask them to do that. I don't think it's something you can choose. But I mean, it's an interesting question. When did you start dreaming in Spanish?
I mean, I'm a bit weird. Um, I could say that for many different reasons, but I'm a bit weird in that I don't remember my dreams, or I hardly ever remember my dreams unless I wake up in the middle of the night and it's a nightmare. Then it's still fresh in your memory, and I'll maybe remember it for another few hours, and then it'll slowly fade away from my memory. But it's true that if I am surrounded by Spanish speaking people and watching Spanish speaking
Yeah.
things during that day, then I think it's like a seesaw almost. If the scales go towards Spanish rather than English, which to be honest doesn't happen that often, but
No.
if I speak more Spanish or I'm surrounded by more Spanish during the day, then when I'm just randomly thinking, or maybe when I'm dreaming, it'll be in Spanish rather than English. But because I work in English most of the time and I record my videos
Yeah.
in English with my fiance, we speak Spanglish pretty much all of the
Yeah.
time. So I still think in English more than I think in Spanish. But if I'm having conversations in Spanish all the time, it will sway in the other direction.
Yeah.
Um, how about you?
I think it was, yeah, maybe a couple of years into my Spanish journey. I remember I was living in Mexico, so it would have been 2 years or 3 years after beginning my journey, Spanish speaking journey. And it's weird, I never had bilingual dreams. So, for example, even if it's my English family, sometimes they'll speak in Spanish in my dreams.
Okay.
Like, but let's say I've got my Spanish friends and English friends in the same dream,
Mhm.
we'll all speak the same language. It's really weird. It's not like my friends speak English and my Spanish friends speak Spanish. That's what would happen in reality. But no, in my dream, everyone speaks one language perfectly. It's really strange.
Interesting.
But I agree with you. It's like, for example, it happened to me more often when I was working in academies with the summer holidays. Now less because of Instagram and as a private teacher, summer holidays don't really exist anymore. But when I was a teacher in academies with a 2 month, 3 month summer holiday, I wouldn't speak in English for 3 months. I would be in Spanish 100% of the time. So yeah, I used to dream a lot in Spanish in the summers. Yeah.
Okay. No, it's an interesting thing. And let us know in the comments if you think in English. We'd be curious to know when this happened. And if you, unlike me, remember your dreams, then let us know if you ever dream in English. I hope so. Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
Already means you're on the right track. You're on the right path. Lovely
Yeah.
expression. Vas por buen camino. You're on the right path. But anyway, I reckon we can wrap it up there. But first, of course, we need a joke, Chris. So, over to you.
Well, we do need a joke, but you know what? I'm going to be completely honest to our podcast listeners. I didn't prepare one today, so I'm going to have to quickly think of one
If you
off the
want,
top of my head.
we can do one each.
Yeah,
Because
okay, let's do that.
I've
But do
got
you want to go first? Yeah,
I've got my go-to joke that it's terrible, it's a dad joke, it's not very good, but it's one of the few that I can always remember off the top of my head. And it is, well, Chris, audience, how do you organize a party in space?
I've never heard this one before. Oh, I'm really excited now.
How do you organize a party in space? You plan it!
That's good. I've never heard that one before. I can't believe that.
You can use it
Wow.
later.
I'm going to steal that, pretend I thought of it. Yeah, perfect. That's brilliant. Okay, well, I managed to think of one off the top of my head. Maybe it's not one of my best. I'm sorry, but here goes. Here goes. So, what do you call a woman on a beach? And just to clarify, everybody, beach player. Yeah, especially because woman is also in the sentence. I just want to clarify that. What do you call a woman on a beach?
I don't know.
Sandy. I mean, the problem with this joke is Sandy is not that common of a
It's a
name
very
anymore. But
American name.
yeah, or anyone who loves Grease, the musical, the 1950s musical Grease, maybe they would chuckle. A chuckle, a ha ha ha. Yeah, not a full laugh, just a chuckle. Ha ha
Like
ha. But
giggling.
yeah, not my best.
Well, no, we all have good days and bad days, you know. It's part and parcel of life.
I need to come prepared next week. I have to, what's the word? There's an expression in English that I'm looking for. I need to face the music, admit my mistake, and accept the consequences of the comments of saying, Chris, that was a terrible dad joke this week. I'm facing the music. Voy a afrontar las consecuencias de ese malísimo dad joke.
Well, you know, a nice phrase to live by is fail to prepare, prepare to fail.
Oh, wow. I've not heard that. I like that. Yeah. Fail to prepare, prepare to fail. I love that.
But other than that, I think it's been a really good podcast. I think we've given lots of nice tips, and the underlying message, the most important thing, the bottom line is that you need to use English every day, or pretty much every day, in the way that works for you best. So hopefully you managed to do this, and it's been a pleasure, Chris, as always. I hope everybody enjoyed listening, and we'll see them next time, right?
Yeah. Thank you very much, everyone. Just to quickly mention one more time, sorry for sounding like a broken record, but the example we gave was just an example, a template. As Lewis just mentioned, modify it, adjust it to your interests. But the key is to have some sort of routine in English, to use it every day. And a routine helps because then you don't forget. With a routine, you make sure you really ensure or make sure that you're using English. And that's the key. Use it or lose it. So yeah.
Exactly. Perfect. Well, thank you, everybody. Muchas gracias y nos vemos en el siguiente.
Yeah, thank you very much, everyone. I hope you enjoy it.
Bye.